Back when your phone wasn't good enough to play music, you had to carry a little music brick in your pocket. Apple had perfected the iPod and iTunes, turning it all into a status symbol. Other brands watched that grip and thought, there has to be room for a second empire. Welcome to Oddware Lab, and today we'll talk about the Microsoft Zune. The slogan, "Welcome to the social," promised to connect your music and your friends. Sadly for Microsoft, Apple's grip was established, and rivals had to do way more than just match features. In November 2006, the first model arrived, the Zune 30. A 30 gigabytes hard drive player priced at $249.99. It was often called the iPod killer. Internally, it ran under the codename Argo, with Xbox veteran Jay Allard leading the push. It was a high-ambition project. Hardware-wise, Microsoft came out swinging where it could. The launch Zune had a 3-inch screen, built-in FM radio, and Wi-Fi. But it also had a signature trick, wireless song sharing. You could beam a track to a nearby Zune. Pop culture gave it a very unfortunate nickname, squirting. But shared songs were very limited, often described as 3 plays over 3 days, because labels demanded control. This was later tweaked in updates, but the initial damage was done. The controls carried an identity crisis too. Apple had the click wheel. It was fast, muscle memory friendly, and oddly satisfying, like a current fidget toy. But the Zune used a D-pad that looked like a wheel, and many called it slower or awkward for long scrolling. That sounds minor until you remember the entire product is navigation plus sound. Another problem was that the Zune desktop software was only for Windows, and it didn't play nicely with iTunes purchases. Many of the so-called killer features showed up late, after the first impression hardened. Later updates added some cool features, like FM song tagging that let you identify what was playing and buy it later. At launch, that Wi-Fi mostly powered sharing and couldn't support shopping, so a headline spec felt oddly underused. And a very small fun fact. On December 31st, 2008, many Zune 30s froze from a leap year clock bug, then recovered about a day later. Nothing major though. Regarding sales, around 2 million Zune 30 from November 2006 to May 2008. Sadly, not enough of a reason for Microsoft to keep it around for long. So when you stack it all together, the Zune wasn't really that bad. It failed because it arrived late to a locked ecosystem, and its biggest differentiator was kneecapped by licensing rules. The interface and software had small issues, and the better features landed after people had already made up their minds. In March 2011, Microsoft announced there would be no new Zune hardware. Services were wound down later as the brand folded into other media apps. And in pop culture, the Zune got a second life via Guardians of the Galaxy, proof that a gadget can lose the war and still leave fingerprints. And that was the story and legacy of the Microsoft Zune. If you like gadgets that try to build a whole universe, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment on what we should talk about next. Every comment helps. Thank you for watching, and I hope I see you in the next video.